the best bit of the Edinburgh Fringe has to be spending a month with lots of like-minded creatives, all trying to make some stuff, lots of laughs, good jokes.
The best thing about the Fringe is that it's a fantastic opportunity for me to get rid of some of my money.
The best thing about Fringe is not doing the Fringe because you don't want to, or you don't need to, or you can't afford to, or you haven't got a show that you're throwing your whole weight behind because you're doing other things, maybe other shows, maybe just other stuff with your one short life on God's sweet earth instead of the Scottish Landlords Festival of bankrupting mentally ill people.
The worst thing about the Fringe is that Edinburgh doesn't even have any Pret-a-Mangers. You know, what am I supposed to do for a whole month? How am I supposed to have coffee and a Pret-style sandwich? What am I supposed to do?
Worst thing, probably when your communist friends do a podcast and make you feel like a fucking scab for going up. Get fucked.
Best thing about the Fringe is probably the permanent damage to your central nervous system. Have a great Fringe, losers!
Please welcome to the stage, all the way from the back of the room, Mandatory Redistribution Party!
Hello, everyone!
Hello!
And welcome to Mandatory Redistribution Party. My name is Sean Morley.
And my name is Jack Lewis Evans.
Thank you all so much for coming to our Fringe show, which is also our 98th podcast episode.
This show is a sequel to our second ever episode, Frunge, from August 2019. Hopefully you have all used the QR code on the flyer to listen to that in its entirety before entering the venue.
The Edinburgh Fringe is the largest arts festival in the entire global earth. Its size and scale boggle our soft minds.
But its powerful pumping guts run on exploited labour, extortionate rents and the unrealised aspirations of young artists.
Fringe shows and podcasts rely on your goodwill. So please, if you could take some flyers out to distribute on the Royal Mile, or you could even fly it on social media by posting some reviews of your own, praise or even derision. Please, we need the visibility. Last night we performed this show to a pigeon.
Instead of doing a bucket speech at the end of the show, we're going to do it now. If you enjoy our work, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/mandatory redistribution party, where you can access loads of bonus content. It's free to click play, but it'll cost you to click stop.
Okay. Is everyone in? Is everyone here?
Wait a second. Okay, let's go. Ed Frunge. Hello? No, this isn't the juggling's. It's the next room.
We're Mandatory Redistribution Party. We're doing episode 98 on the institutional problems of the Fringe. If you want to sit down, we're...
I don't know if I fancy it. That's fine. Cheers. Enjoy your show.
I could have got it. Years ago, me and our mutual friend Sam Nicoresti, who is currently doing a run of his show Cancel Anti-Woke Flake Snow Culture at the Banshee Labyrinth daily at 8:55. We were trying to make this satirical documentary about the Fringe, and we made this segment on it. He was flyering for a show that we were saying was happening in this phone box. My brief for it was, if anyone came into the phone box with me, I'd say, do you mind what you're doing? And then when they'd come out, Sam, as the flyer, would go, oh, that's the show. No, that's part of it. And send them back in. And I go,
do you know what? Yeah.
Sorry, I've told you this is occupied.
Incredible.
What do you want? I'm trying to make a phone call. And every time, play it completely straight and see how many times Sam could get them to go back in.
Would you do the phone call? Who would the phone call be to?
I never really said. I kept saying sorry. I kept on saying sorry, they're back. Yeah. We didn't realise how much people would fall for it. They loved it, and they loved it. They thought they were seeing really clever theatre. But also, as far as they knew, a random flyer just kept getting them to bother a stranger.
Did you make up flyers?
No, we literally just decided to do it on walking down the street.
Is that flyering if you've not got a flyer?
You don't need to have a flyer to fly it.
Really?
You just impart information.
Money saving tip, folks.
Yeah, just tell people things. They can remember things. They're adults.
Pay someone £15 an hour to say, do you know there's a show going on down there? Don't need. What's this bit of paper for?
Yeah, just write down on your phone.
Get rid of that. Why? You've just had a galaxy brain idea, my friend.
just remember things.
Because the flyer makes a difference more than the flyer.
100%. And if they've equipped with a few mnemonics, your quid's in.
Yeah, I think abandon the flyer. Instead, think of a persona and costume you would like your flyer to wear.
Yeah.
That's comedians who start thinking about that. For 2023, design your flyer. One of my favourite things about the Fringe is seeing comedy friends, because comedy's a weird thing where when you very first start, the people you're with, you'll be on shows where there's like 12 people on a show, like gong shows or open mics, and you'll see a lot of people and you'll be doing a lot of the same gigs. And then as soon as you're in paid work, you'll probably be doing the same slots. You'll probably be doing middles and then opens, and you're unlikely to be on the same bill because you're filling the same slot. So you see each other less, unless you choose, like we do, to work on stuff together, or you hang out a lot outside of gigs. But seeing comedians from all around the country all in one place is very cool. Because I think comedy work can sometimes be quite solitary.
And you actually get to engage with what your friends are up to. When someone's made an Edinburgh show, it's like all of your friends have made pretty little flower arrangements. And you say, I like what you did, that was nice. You made a nice thing.
Kind of related is the collaborative nature of the Fringe, of like working with other people who like comedy or like anything, any of the arts that are being created and shown there, to make it happen. Now, obviously, the big thing for that is the free Fringes, where the PAs are sourced from all over everywhere and transported to the hundreds of venues they've got. People make those venues. We'll get into problems with the free Fringe, but the principle of that like mutual aid and making a thing happen together without expectation of remuneration and doing it for other people.
And there's so many things that you need that you couldn't realistically pay for all those tiny little like extra elements. If all of those were financial transactions, that would be so gloopy and horrible, and everyone would be like PayPaling each other in these Scottish cellars.
Yeah.
Whereas you can end up with these weird daily routines. I remember in 2019, I'd do my show, and then some of the times I'd have to be a dog at the end of Adam Larter's disco show, or in another year before my show, I'd have to borrow a friend's guitar and then play a sad piece of music live at the end of someone else's storytelling show, and then I've got to place that guitar a shed on the other side of town so that the guitar can be picked up for another show.
Another thing that's I think really interesting about it is, like, obviously there's all people coming from all around the world to this festival, but also over 50% of audiences are Scottish. I would love there to be an actual successful proper Manchester Fringe where people from Manchester can get to go see stuff from all around the world like that. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a cool thing. I think a world where people have access to live cool arts without having to be in London is good and cool. Like, people joke about Edinburgh being like London on tour, because it's just transferring all this London stuff to Edinburgh for a month, including rents. But that's the thing, though. It's not in London, and that's good. That's one of the good things about it, is it is not the London Fringe.
And many people have tried to make a London Fringe, and they can't because Edinburgh exists.
Yes.
If the Edinburgh Fringe didn't exist, there would be a London Fringe, and there would be no undoing
remember that, everyone.
Yeah, and whereas we're lucky because the Edinburgh Fringe always feels like it's on the cusp of collapse, but a London Fringe would be untoppable. Whereas Edinburgh Fringe literally could disappear in the next few years. I think it's really good that it's in a city, because I know there are like festivals that are trying to do some kind of immersive experiences, but they do that by like taking you out into a field or taking you out into like absolute fiction, people like in characters and stuff doing things long form there, but you know that you're not in reality. You're like in a complete fictional, someone else's Truman Show, Synecdoche, New York thing. Edinburgh's a real place, right? There really are banks operating behind this clown, that pret-a-manger behind the guy dressed as a predator, that's functioning. This is still a place.
A pret.
And that really is the predator.
That's the predator. Just because they are a species known as the predator does not mean that they have to hunt and kill. They might want to take photos with kids on the Royal Mile.
Everyone needs a work-life balance. The predators don't hunt for fun. They're on the clock.
Yes.
But the fact that it's in a city, and the city is now like borderline non-functional because the arts have arrived. That's kind of more interesting and more immersive than going into a field and people go, I'm the court jester and you're going on a quest. Do you want to go and see a jazz band in this tent? Forsooth. I can't get immersed in that.
You're going to see levels of authenticity, like authentic characters, Like, you're never going to see at like Disneyland. You're not going to see someone just sat on a curb, so desperately holding back tears because they've had the worst fucking gig of their life. Mm-hmm. You will see that in Edinburgh.
You can't not see that. In any view of pedestrians at Edinburgh Fringe, you will be seeing at least 5 people who are having literally one of the worst days of their life.
Yeah.
And at least one who's going to make a lot of money very soon.
If the Google car, if it went through Edinburgh in August, and you drop that little yellow man down onto the mile, you'd drop down, oh look, it's the Predator. Turn, there's someone stood on the edge of a bridge. Because they paid Mumble 50 quid and Mumble gave them the first ever 1 star. You keep turning and there is Harry Enfield's oldest child, Hannah Gadsby.
If the Google car took all of its images of Edinburgh during the Fringe, Edinburgh would literally not be mapped. Edinburgh just wouldn't appear. Google would not be able to get any information.
Are you all right? Are you okay? Sean, I think this person's ill.
Are you coughing because of like something in your throat, or are you unwell?
Is it the spores?
Is it the sawdust from the room above? We put all of this on the poster.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it was very small and a similar colour to the background.
If you can't handle spores, you can't handle this show. It said that in Comic Sans across the top of our flyer.
Look, just to get down to brass tacks, if you're not able to stop coughing soon, we're going to have to ask you to leave. We spent a lot of money to be here. The show is on a rigorous timetable. I'm sleeping on a kitchen counter with an improv troupe. I don't really have it in me to extend compassion. The compassion that you clearly deserve during your final moments.
What we're saying is, please, can you stop coughing? Nearly. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you ever come across Mumble Comedy?
The shape of it is ringing a bell.
It's like a review blog. In as much as
yes!
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot going on with like reviews and how reviews work and how like these quite old journalists gatekeep who gets to have a career. But there was one very interesting upstart in the review world called Mumble Comedy, which started appearing. So the Edinburgh Fringe is like a marketing advertising arms race. And so there's this thing called flashes, which is when you get a good review during your run, and then you might hire someone to go around all of your posters that are like anything that's in a static position and staple a new review onto the poster design. It makes the thing that like looks nice and is pretty and describes your show look like a horrible thing that's found in the bin outside Staples. But it does go, Scotsman said I showed potential. And Mumble Comedy over a couple of years started appearing on everyone's posters. They gave almost everyone 5 stars. My understanding of it is that they wanted to become a new reviewer and they needed visibility. And the way to get visibility is to have all the acts and performers do it for you by giving all of them 5 stars and have them sellotape the name of your review blog onto all of their posters across the entire city.
Free advertising.
Then they had their Fringe accreditation taken away. So do
the Fringe decide who it is and isn't a reviewer? Do you have to be accredited by the Fringe? What the fuck?
Well, they can revoke your Fringe lanyard, though.
Oh, not the lanyard.
That means you can't go to that one 10 a.m. tea and coffee networking event, I think.
Yeah.
The guy who runs it, let's say the name.
John Mumble.
Gareth Mombley.
Yeah.
It's widely believed that all the reviewers for Mumble are this person writing under different pseudonyms and different writing styles to make the organisation seem a lot bigger.
I love this.
It kind of worked. Mumble got well known enough that people had heard of it. They'd seen it on enough posters. Oh, I'd like a review for Mumble. So they started charging.
What?
I remember once we tried to get them to come to a show that was at 2 a.m. And they really didn't want to. But, we said we'd pay the fee. We said, great, we don't have the money right now. Do you mind if we use a bucket speech and ask the audience to pay the fee at the end to make sure you get it? And they just sent back the words, you blew it.
You blew it, kid. You'll never work in this city again.
I was going to come down at 2 a.m. to review your show in one of my many dramatic personas. You're all washed up.
Now we've made ourselves cover some positives of the Fringe. We are now going to talk about how it's fucked.
Yeah, most of our thoughts about the Fringe. we're now going to cover the majority of the things we think when we see the words Edinburgh Fringe.
Oh, some people don't fancy that. That's fine. Just not every show's for everyone. You can go, no judgment. Got another show? Where are you going?
I think it's good that you know what you like and you know what you don't like. I think it's bad that you didn't know that before, but we got there in the end.
People who are still here.
We're having a great time. We're having a great time, everyone.
But now, Sean, as we need more people, I'll keep things going in here. And if you can you go out, just fly some people, go get some people in?
Okay, how many do we need in? Just 2 more and then we've got 5.
And then we can carry on.
That's a show. All right. Okay, I'll be back in 10 minutes. Hello there, mandatory redistribution party. It's a show about... Okay, absolutely no problem. Hello, mandatory redistribution party show is just started. It's about... No problem, have a nice day. Mando Party, live comedy, it's just through. No problem. Good afternoon. Are you at all interested in a show? No worries, have a nice one. Political comedy about the Edinburgh Fringe. Yep. Okay. Please, if I could just have a moment of your time. Okay. Did you have a second to talk to me? Okay. All right. Hello. If I could just pause you. Okay. I won't actually. I'm not going to touch you. I haven't touched you. Okay. Well, I haven't actually touched you. Okay. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'll take one.
Okay, great. Do you want to know more about the show?
Oh no, you were just looking miserable, so I thought I'd take one.
And thank you. You were right. I am miserable. But really, the flyers aren't the issue. It's more about the bums on the seats. Can I tell you anything about...
Mate, don't pitch to me, okay? I was trying to help you out.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I was in the wrong. Please have a nice day. Political comedy just started in. Show just already started. A show with a pigeon. Pigeon show. Pigeon comedy. Ping pong comedy already. Okay. Sad comedy has already begun. Mandatory redistribution party. Sad podcast. Sad podcast. Okay, no worries. Sad sad comedy pod sad comedy pod sod. Okay, no worries. Okay, no worries. Comedy pod sod. Okay, no worries. Comedy pod sod. Okay, no worries. Sodcast.
Oh yeah, what's this show you got here?
It's a live political comedy show called Mandatory Redistribution Party. Does that sound like something that might interest you?
Oh yeah, I'd love to come on the provision I've got enough of the relevant information about the show's theme.
Okay, and you're being sincere with me here?
Absolutely, I've got nothing to gain from being duplicitous with a flyer. I'm on me holiday.
Okay, well, the show is a live comedy spin-off of a podcast. This will be our episode 98, talking about the Fringe, relating to how its economics work. Oh. Okay, well, I'm just going to wait for that to stop.
I'm sorry, I've got to go.
Everyone, get around. I am going to throw a knife in the air. Okay, get around, not too close. Okay, my name is Johnny the Studebaker. I've been traveling. I've just been doing a show in the Czech Republic. They love it here, and you guys, folks of Edinburgh, you're going to love it as well. So I'm going to throw this knife into the air. Then it will land somewhere. Be very careful. I'm going to throw it as high as I can. After that, I abdicate all responsibility for whatever happens to anyone here. Okay, we get you all clapping. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Okay. I'm very sorry, sir. Like I said, I take no responsibility for that. Let's get you to a hospital.
Okay, new PB. I shifted a whole 100 flyers. Did we get many walk-ins?
No, it's exactly the same people here as when you left.
Okay, show must go on.
Nice, okay. Fringe, sponsored by TikTok this year.
Is actually?
Don't know where that TikTok money's going.
Is the main award called the TikTok Award?
No, that's still Dave, I think. But right. I think that's on the cards. I think the one after Dave might be TikTok.
The TikTok Comedy Award.
It's coming.
Reading about the conditions, like a third of the staff at the Edinburgh Fringe are unpaid. So many of them are sleeping in like army barracks style conditions. Like, sea venues barely pay any of their staff. They're all like on mattresses on the floor next to each other. They are lied to about the terms of their hire, and there has been at least one manager disciplined for trying to prevent workers receiving intolerable amounts of shifts back to back. Keeping the work conditions of the staff a secret from the performers is also considered part of the job description of the managers. Because the performers don't want to know that the people that are like moving the props around don't get any days off or any money.
Because one of the reasons people go for paid venues is because either a free fringe venue is insufficient for the type of work they want to do, or because free fringe is super exploitative of thousands of people's voluntary labour. Like it has, because it's existing inside of capitalism with all of the problems that come with that, despite it having these like positives of being based on principles of mutual aid. You get people who do more work than other people in a totally sort of thankless and unrecognised way, and some people who are just like, primary concern is how many of their posters can they get up everywhere. Some people go for a paid venue because they think, I would like there to be some paid people to do security, or some paid people to do tickets. And the thought a lot of people have is, I'm going to pay thousands of pounds to this organisation, and then they're going to employ people to do these jobs, and that's good for me because it means I don't have to worry about it, or I don't have to do it myself. I can just concentrate on the work I want to do. But no, you've just traded one type of awkward, horrible exploitation masquerading as something else for a different one.
Do you know, I've heard stories of performers who, you know, they didn't know these were the practices. Specifically, like Just the Tonic are one of the really bad ones, and I've had loads of friends do shows with Just the Tonic. You've done a show with Just the Tonic? No one comes up and tells you, by the way, we, as a policy, tell our workers that they're going to get a day off every week in the hiring stage, but when they actually turn up, we tell them they get one day off in a month. It's more that as a performer, you see staff on shift, and you're like, hang on, I saw you on shift 13 hours ago. How are you still here? And you just have to piece it together like that.
Just people looking very, very tired and stressed.
You as a performer, you've gone up to the Fringe, and let's say you've really dipped into your savings, as most people have to do the Fringe. The people that you've paid the production company to employ are like half asleep, wanting to die, they're not coping. And it's like, but you're like the person who ushers people in and says hello to them at the beginning of the show, and their first impression is someone who's like, you know, at their wit's end.
That labour, that work they're doing, the work you're doing as a performer, and the work they're doing to keep the wheels of the venue going, to make the venue functional, it isn't in service of the art, it's in service of the landlords. Because Just the Tonic don't own the venues, they pay landlords.
All of them are venues that are privately owned by other organisations.
Mostly like university. Gilded Balloon's in university buildings, Pleasance is in university buildings. And then these are the big money ones. Like, not many people can afford to do Gilded Balloon or the Pleasance because they're very, very expensive. Gilded Balloon and Pleasance don't make money. The landlords make money.
Yeah.
And the landlords don't just make money for the Fringe, they gain from the inflated rents and the inflated property prices year round. Like, the Fringe is a gentrification machine. Financially, the Fringe exists for landlords. Like, it's absolutely an issue that working class people in general struggle to afford to perform or visit the Fringe, but working class people in Edinburgh struggle to like live in their own city for the rest of the year. And this like annual landlord festival is just making that worse.
It's just capitalism, but just distilled into this hyper, horrific, exaggerated, mega exploitative version of it. But in the context of like, it's a lot of people's, it's like a working holiday. You know, like a lot of the people working in the venues are there because they really like theatre and comedy, and they want to see the stuff that's going on at the Fringe, but because it's very expensive, they end up working in their holiday. Sorry, mate. What?
You're going to have to speak up.
It doesn't matter if you are a landlord. That we're talking about the institution. I'm sure you're a very nice person. I mean, maybe not. You are a landlord.
I'm not confident you're a nice person. Yeah, we can't rule it out.
Well, so what if the mortgage is very expensive? How many houses have you got? What? Why?
It shows on Rightmove that you're renting out a parking space to a family of 2.
Are you right? Are you going to just... You can either leave or just behave.
All right, mate. I remember my first drink.
Well, you shouldn't actually be drinking the blood of your tenants.
Yeah, you shouldn't have brought it in, actually, as well, because
You've got to drink the venue's drinks.
the venues only let us do this if we make sure people stay at their bar. And, I don't know where their blood's from. Yeah, it is more expensive, and it is the plastic cup. Yeah, and it's warm. But it's blood. A lot of theatre people and arts people, they are trying to escape from capitalism, and something about that makes them even more exploitable.
Yeah, ripe.
They're like trying to get out of it, and they're like, I want to just work on this arts thing, and if I can just go to this place for a bit. Do you know, it's like that promise that if you can somehow cut your teeth in this industry, you get to live in a place where you get to think about creativity and producing shows. And the landlords just scoop that up because every show needs to happen in a place. Everyone needs a place to stay. It all happens in this one festival that's getting crunched because the sheer demand from performers and punters grows and grows. So the pricing on property...
Because the demand's there, and it's the rent machine. There's people who are like, well, it's just the market. The market will, landlords will charge whatever the market can sustain, as if like that's a law of nature and that's okay and that's fine. The rent extraction that is related to the Edinburgh Fringe. So there's the rent of where you live. So even if you're on the free fringe or something, you are probably paying to live somewhere. And then there's the rent, if you pay for a venue, there's the rent of the venue, which can be thousands of pounds per, just for the slot. Like if as a performer, you're probably paying rent to live and paying rent to perform. And if you're not a performer, if you're someone working in these venues, then you're paying rent for somewhere to live, and then you're getting surplus value extracted from you because of your horrific 0 hours contract and the insane hours you work, which might even be below minimum wage. Then there's the third thing of like it's a machine for gentrifying Edinburgh to inflate the house prices. Those three things together are like the defining economic features of the Fringe.
It's like the whole thing is this big food chain. And I think like in terms of the absolute grass level, it's got to be like new performers who have been sold the dream because they're spending so much money to so many different people. And then you've got the punters that line everything up. They just come to submit money to see shows. And then you've got like layers of production, layers of marketing, layers of industry that relates to performance. And then right at the very top, like the god shining heat death on top of everyone else is just property owners.
I think the Fringe should be a place for experimentation, right? The way the Fringe infects the year of like, you've got to have your Fringe show. It's got to be real good. And then you've got to like really have the idea in August the previous year and then start previewing it to get it super, super polished for August, and then probably still make some tweaks in the first week. The Fringe isn't to like mess around with the show and work out what it is. But I think it should be. I think that's one of the things that would make the Fringe good. But there's this immense pressure to bring something that's done.
That's worthwhile, that stands shoulder to shoulder with this intense competition.
But that's it. That's the competition is exacerbated by just how much everything costs.
That pressure to make sure what you're doing is good and not shit, and to try and make sure you get some kind of a return so that you're not going hand out of pocket just to exist in the industry, means that you end up doing loads of previews and you can't charge as much for a preview because you have to make it clear this is not
done.
This is not the finished product. And partially because of that is because the Fringe Society wants to be able to say it's a premiere. But the previews also are a source of losing money because you are telling people, not done, come and see this. And you cannot... That will affect what's a reasonable ticket price for that.
You have to think about your show in terms of marketing. There's numerous fundamental problems in the arts, and the Edinburgh Fringe is like an expression of these problems. One is the domination of the arts by very rich people, right? Because they have the time, resources and cultural capital to go into these things. But another one is marketing. Like one of the fuck things that's happened to music, record companies used to have like talent scouts.
Yeah, they go to dive bars and see what's going on.
The people who are successful are people who are good at marketing. That is also something that infects the Fringe in the sense of like, you have to think of your show in terms of who is this? Well, you always, when you create something, you're like, who is this for? Why am I creating it? But your answer to that question, I think the edges get shaved off by marketing necessity.
every time someone who I've known for years, who has the surname of another famous comedian but is younger than them by a generation, every time the penny drops with me, I feel like a massive idiot, but also massively surprised. Oh, that's your dad. It makes sense because you've got the same surname and you're both from London. And also, as well, you appeared from nowhere. I never saw you much on the circuit coming up, and now you're playing really big venues.
Harry Enfield has 30 kids. How many of them are comedians you can think of?
27, I think.
Catherine Ryan, Harry Enfield's kid.
Really? I did not know that.
Acaster,
yeah,
Harry Enfield's kid.
Sorry, everyone. This is just the drilling. It is not part of the show. It's more a feature of the venue. Jack, I think it's your turn to go and have a word. I'll take care of things here. Who wants to play a game of ping pong with me while we wait for Jack? I've only got one bat, though. Okay, here we go. My serve.
Hi, sorry, really awkward one. I hate to ask, but is there any chance you could stop drilling for a bit, please?
What? Jack Evans.
Hello, mate.
Mate, how's it going? How's the show?
Actually, now just popped out to ask this guy to stop drilling.
Yeah.
I don't think he can hear me.
Sorry, I can't hear you. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. We sold out.
Oh, what did you sell out?
My two-hander with Simon Bovril. We're in the sewer room. Tricky one to get, but Simon does a lot of drinking with the guy who books it, so he managed to slide our way in. Rumour is the guy's a murderer, but I've never personally seen him do it, so...
What the fuck?
Had reviewers in today.
Reviewers came to a two-hander?
Yeah, they don't normally, but they were smashing it to pieces, so they sent them down. You out drinking?
Well, I'm actually supposed to be in my show right now. Sean's waiting for me. I'm just asking this guy to finish drilling.
I'm going to do the hour next year,
Oh yeah, what about?
I'm not asked about that, mate. Just got a packet full of gags. Not enough shows like that, I don't think anyone's doing that. Just wall-to-wall gags, just wall-to-wall smashes is my plan. Just jokes, pure jokes. Just ripping it, just fucking tearing it apart, just like a fucking lion bursting out of a tiger. Just fucking blood and guts, mate. Fucking limb from limb. Maybe a bit of MCing at the top. I'm going to call it Smasher.
That sounds mad.
They shouldn't really tell you this, but I had the panel in the other day. One of them came to me and she said to me, if the show were just you and not this other guy, we'd put you down for the award right now. We'd put you down. Not even the newcomer, the main award.
Sorry, mate, you keep looking over my shoulder. Just checking you're not using me to conceal yourself from an assassin.
No, mate, no. I just thought I saw Bill Burr. You on TikTok, mate? You got to be on TikTok, mate. That algorithm. I've got a great idea where I'm going to put a towel on my head and pretend to be my partner. Then do sketches where we fucking hate each other.
Please stop drilling, it's really loud.
I'm sorry, I've been told to drill this hole. I get paid to drill.
I feel like you're drilling into my brain, through my arse.
There we go, all done.
You've just burst a pipe.
Yes, that's what I was trying to do.
This is sewage.
Yeah, so the sewer room was getting full, so we had to have it drained. We had to have this whole room.
Is this poo?
Oh, mate, is that Harry Enfield Jr.? That's Harry Enfield Jr. Well, I'll see you in a bit, mate. I'll see you in a bit. Lovely to see you.
Is this poo? Right, it's sorted.
1 second. Very good serve. That tenant's blood is serving you well. Very nice. Okay, we need to get back into the show now, so if you could sit down. Hey, get off me. Get off me. Sit down.
Calm down. Hey, listen, mate. Come on, mate. Sit down. Calm down. I'll buy you some blood after this.
You're buying too much blood for the audience.
I know, we're going to make a huge loss.
All right. Back in. Professional
mode, Mando mode.
People aren't going to the Fringe for a kind of financial return. They're going to get recognition, get found, make a contact with someone more influential. It's a trade show, and you want to, boost your name or make a deal or have someone that you could pitch an idea to that could then maybe get shaped into something that will go on a broadcast media. In order to ensure that, you've got lots of predatory third-party people who can do PR or marketing for you, because they'll say, if you spend another $1,000 on me, then I will mean that this whole thing hasn't been a waste of time. Because if you come away with the Edinburgh Fringe and you haven't made any of these contacts, or you haven't won some kind of award, or you haven't got those reviews, it's very hard to think that it's justified in terms of its price. That means that because we're not talking about a financial investment in a straightforward way, money in, money out, you're looking for recognition from an older generation of gatekeepers, essentially, who in turn, as much as the sheer economics and the annual nature of the Fringe shape the artistic output of the entire comedy industry for a year, a very small group of journalists and award panelists really are the determinant of the comedy output, not just for this year, but for next year, because what won last year will affect what people think the trends will be in future. That's why you get these bubbles in comedy where certain ideas, certain trends, certain aesthetics, certain formats, they become like speculation bubbles, you know? It's like investing in, is this aesthetic going to be good? Is a dead dad show going to come back into fashion? Maybe I should do like a big reveal about some aspect of this or that in my life, or we'll do it this way. I think the whole of the arts gets narrower because there aren't enough tastemakers. There's about 5 people whose written output on comedy reviews is considered noteworthy enough to be career-changing. And then there's the Fringe Society itself that creates a panel that's going to decide who wins the Edinburgh Award. And as well, on top of that, the social contract that used to underpin the Edinburgh Award, that like winning it meant something, is quite a few years broken. Yeah. You know, there are people who've won the Edinburgh Award that are no more well-known outside of the reified mad centre of the industry than they were before they won the award. Somewhere between Tim Key and John Kearns, it no longer meant you had a career beyond it.
Another thing you'll see people say about the Fringe when they're like, I was going to say defending it, all its fucking problems, but just really just deflecting and talking about nonsense instead, is to like, you know, well, obviously it's people's choice to go, but then it's like, oh, well, if you're funny, you'll be fine. Don't worry about anything. If you're funny, you'll be fine. It's like this idea that the Fringe is this like magical meritocracy. Yeah. You got to worry about marketing your show to even get people sat down, because it doesn't matter how funny you are. If no one's sat in there watching it and they're not the right people to be sat watching your show and enjoying your show, then you're fucked. And then equally, you can win the award, and if you've not got, you know, some marketing game plan.
And what does a meritocracy mean when people just explicitly have different contradictory opinions about different performances? Like, people can get in a single run 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, and 5 stars from different reviewers for the same show. It's not even like tastes are so diverse at the Edinburgh Fringe, because the audience isn't particularly diverse at the Edinburgh Fringe. Not just because if you make something very expensive in order to access it and participate in it, that's going to disproportionately affect people of colour, but also that the audience for the Edinburgh Fringe is disproportionately white middle class. But also Edinburgh itself is an incredibly white city. If that makes up the makeup of the audience, that is going to affect what appears to be objectively good, because there's not going to be a diversity of like backgrounds and therefore tastes. But the Fringe still is the largest arts festival in the world. So if you want to make it big and go where all the industry have a chance of seeing you when they wouldn't outside of their normal humdrum routines of locked down schedules of who they'll go and see, you have to go and try and make a show which is more palatable to the audience of the Edinburgh Fringe.
You commodify yourself, like who you are. Commodifying yourself in a very particular way for a very particular audience, a predominantly white audience, a wealthier audience. You're packaging yourself for them in a palatable way. You know, working class becomes a brand with which to sell yourself. Neurodivergent becomes a brand with which to sell yourself. Things you might not think are like fundamentals to who you are, of like your personality and what you want to talk about, end up becoming the thing that's like an easy hook. So you know, people who aren't white men, when they're doing a set in stand-up, often the first minute of their set is explaining to the audience that almost like why a white man isn't on the stage.
Yeah, apologising for not being the normal kind of comedian.
Yeah, so you have to do jokes about it, like I'm a woman or I'm a black person or I'm disabled right at the top, because the audience is thinking, well, hold on, what's this? What the fuck is going on here? Yeah. That's the problem with comedy across the UK in general.
I've even had it explained it in that terms of like the audience literally will not be able to concentrate on what you're saying because they're like,
yeah, what's going on?
Sitting there like gorons.
Yeah, you need to reassure them. You have to accept their premise, don't you? You have to accept this is strange and make jokes about it.
Yeah,
you have to do that at gigs anyway. But at the Edinburgh Fringe, you have to do that before you've set foot on stage. You have to do it on the poster. You have to do it in the press release. Yeah.
The other thing the Fringe does, with its kind of hugeness, it's got a lot of gravity that pulls stuff in. If you want to go and do something really mad, you think, oh, well, I've got to do it there because they'll be accepting of it. But if I wanted to go and do something mad, you know, down the road, oh, they'd never like it here. You know, they'd get it at the Fringe, but they wouldn't get it down the road. And I think that's pulls bullshit. Away...
That's bullshit.
Well, 100%. Yeah. You know, the most experimental Edinburgh Fringe show you can do would be happening in Preston in February. You know, if you really want to say, like, discover more, be more, they always put these little taglines on the programme. You know, go the extra mile, make something new, unique. Great. It's not in Edinburgh. I didn't pay any money to the Fringe programme. It's happening in my living room and my 2 friends can go to it. Please put this forward for the award. How much money you've got dictates the strength and speed of your mental decay over the month. Right?
Yeah, less
and
money, you're on the
this
fast
idea
track.
of hype, right? Hype and buzz and, you know, it's cumulative. So in that last week, if you've got a shot at the big shot, that's when you have to pull out some of the best performances of your life, because one significant review brings 3 significant reviewers the next day. And so if you are dead on your feet in that last week, you can't make it. And you are a million times more likely to be dead on your feet if you're house sharing with 7 or 8 people, if you're living in a little Euro hike tent in the swamps of Edinburgh, than if you've just comfortably got a 10 grand gazebo that's on top of one of Edinburgh's many skyscrapers. You just abseil down, land on the Tron, and then start doing a 2-hour clowning show about when you ran your dad over.
As the predator looks on.
Yeah, approvingly.
Yeah, tear in their eye.
Yeah, good hunting. Target acquired.
So let's now talk about how things could be better. How could we fix the Fringe, Sean?
I think the Fringe is a kind of a wonder of the world. Something on that size and scale would be hard to build again.
Yeah.
I mean, all the Fringe is lots of shows happening in a place. That in itself is not problematic.
It's a good
The
idea.
idea of having a big Fringe doesn't need to go in the bin. The very core concept of it doesn't need to go in the bin. I just don't see... Almost every other contingent property of the Fringe should be changed, even just arbitrary. It doesn't need to be in one single city at all times. Why can't it just move around? Just be somewhere else. And I think it should be moved as a punishment.
Yes.
For a naughty city.
Yeah.
Listen, you have had the most litter in, so now you have to have the Fringe. See how you like litter when there's 1,000 flyers on every corner of the street.
And then there's teens who really want the Fringe to come to their town, so they're intentionally littering.
All community service for that year has changed to you have to do a Fringe show about what you did. We're sending you off to clown school. It's like 40 minutes sitting on a stool going, and that's when I started to set the bins on fire. The arts aren't very easy to get to for normal people. If people want to go and see loads of music, or people want to go and see lots of comedy or whatever, they've got to go to this festival, which is like too intense. Music festivals are too intense. Unless you're really into substances. Music festivals, obviously, they're really for the substance enjoyers. And the music, do you know what I mean? The music is what you tell people. I'm going there to listen to sounds. But what you're really doing there is digesting things. But like, if you want to take in a little bit of art, it would be good to just do a little bit a week.
Microdose it.
Well, I should know. I want to change it. This should be a dose, right? 28 days of straight theatre shouldn't be considered a dose, and going out for an evening is a microdose. It should be that going out for an evening is a dose, and going out to a festival is an absolute go-to-the-hospital level overdose. A microdose would be like, you know, when you've gone up a big hill with binoculars so you can see a bit of a football match.
Have you done that?
That's microdosing.
You said that as this thing that you've done. You're like, when you go up a hill, have you done that? That's mad.
I've never even been up a hill. I'm probably just remembering a Beano panel. That's how much of a knockabout kid I am. My understanding of what kids do in the park comes from the dandy. I just go around with my friend Nasher and then just slingshot all the queer-coded children.
Oh my God. Okay.
Well, the softie seems like a nice guy. He never did anything to deserve. He seems all right.
Yeah. Justice for
Should
Walter.
stand up for himself, though. He needs to, Walter needs to learn.
I'd like to see Walter kick Dennis's head in.
But Nasher, however, is innocent.
Nasher's a
can't be
dog.
held responsible. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Nasher is partially sentient. Like Muttley should go to prison, for instance.
Yes.
Muttley clearly knows
Muttley's a
what's up.
criminal.
Nasher's criminally insane. Definitely should be rehabilitated. Nasher's the Joker. Nasher's criminally insane and spiritually ill.
Mandatory Redistribution Party was created and produced by Sean Morley and Jack Lewis Evans. Our title theme was created by Ella Jean with additional music from Sean Morley and Jack Lewis Evans. Special thanks to Chris Cantrell, Shan Doxey and Jane Edwards, who you heard at the start of this episode. An extra special thanks to you for listening to Mandos, and thanks so much to those of you who support us by sharing this episode on social media, as well as those of you who support our work at patreon.com/mandatory redistribution party, where you can find additional content. If you go into the Fringe, please, God, look after yourself.